So I thought about something I wanted to talk about, or what I thought I was going to talk about, and then I sat down and wrote what I wanted to talk about, and it was nothing like that at all. So I basically wrote myself this cute little speech that I hope you guys will indulge me for, and I think it's a good time since I think this is your first TechTO of the year, right? So great. So happy 2020. I think this will be, for me, this is the message I sort of want to put out there to everybody. As Alex mentioned, kind of what I'm working on, but just why I'm working on it. And this goes for everybody in the room. It's not just for founders. It's, we're all in the tech scene. We're all interested in being the tech scene, especially those kids back there, which is crazy. They're way smarter than us. But I wanted to talk about entrepreneurship, how no one prepares you for entrepreneurship. Someone once compared having a startup like jumping off a cliff and building the parachute on the way down. And that's I found that pretty apropos. When I started Breather, I was coming from fashion. I never led more than a small team. I had a bachelor's of fine arts as my education. I grew up in an Italian immigrant family that worked for every penny they made, and we certainly never had a family business or anything. Truth be told, when we started Breather, I didn't even really know what a startup was. I still remember the day that I went to look up on Wikipedia what a VC did. Seriously. Fast forward 8 years later and everything, VC's now part of my daily vocabulary. I say it way too much. But to say that I was unprepared for what lay ahead of me is a super understatement. Luckily, I'm made of grit and ambition and some brains, and, I ended up being part of something that would become a pretty big Canadian scale up. But I didn't get there by myself. Lots of people selflessly offered their help and advice and personal experiences to me to help me to become what I am today and for what I've accomplished. And it really does take a village. After I left Breather in 2017, I got to spend a lot of time with a lot of different founders. I advised several startups, a lot of them women founded, as I had a special interest in that. I had come from an ecosystem in fashion that was 98% women and 1% gay man and 1% IT guy, basically. And I got catapulted into this ecosystem, which was 98% men and 2% minorities. And I definitely saw the imbalance and I felt the imbalance, and I definitely I got treated differently than my male co-founder did. And, I didn't like that. And I wanted to do something to help to change that percentage so that we saw not less men, but more minority groups basically getting funded. So, despite this imbalance, I'd also never been part of such an ecosystem that was so intertwined and supportive of each other. To this day, it still truly warms my heart and overjoys me, and I'm proud to be part of this ecosystem. And being in Toronto, just by the way, because I'm a Montrealer, you guys have the best deal over here with events and Jason rolling around. I had never seen that before. You guys really, I think about it next time you're in Winnipeg or something, if they have events like this. So, and just, it's, you got, I don't have this in Montreal. I didn't really understand the impact of this ecosystem until about a year ago when I started working on my new thing, and I started connecting with other female founders for advice, support, peppering them with questions for my idea and if it would work and how would it work. I had spent my first, my years at Breather pretty much heads down, which I'm sure a lot of you are like this, not taking advantage of all the connections and the friends I could have made along the way. And now I'm kind of seriously, I was after last year, I was damn, I've been missing out on so much. I totally ignored this whole network I could have had. And, this is one of the reasons I love startups so much, because everybody in this ecosystem is trying to make the world a better place, or we're all out to do our saying is always just there's got to be a better way. We're always trying to find a way to make something better, make a change in the world and whatnot. But this responsibility also comes with a lot of weight on your shoulders. And sometimes I find that we forget to take care of ourselves because of this fake it till you make it notion. I find more often than not, and this is when I'm going to start becoming a bummer a little bit, so I hope you can indulge me for a second. Already 1 minute, so I wasn't supposed to talk about that, sorry. Anyways, they told me not to talk about the time, and I already talked about the time. Anyways, listen, basically what I want to get across is that I end up talking a lot of founders off the ledge, and a lot of people that are, not feeling like they're doing enough or doubting their abilities as a leader and whatnot. And I'm here to tell you that it's completely normal, and it's okay to admit when you're failing or when you don't feel like you're doing good enough or you're feeling out of control. I feel like all we talk about at these events, no offense guys, is our successes, but in truth, our successes would never have happened without a lot of failure. And we need to learn to talk more openly about failure and asking for support and changing the way we look at this. So I'm gonna skip a little bit ahead because I know I'm gonna get in trouble in a second. But candidly, I used to hate coming to these kinds of events because I didn't know anyone, and it felt kind of painful to try and make awkward chit chat with strangers. But this was also probably many of you at one point. In the spirit of this, I'd like to invite you when you're networking next time to not form a circle, but instead try to form a U and leave some space for someone else like me 8 years ago to join your conversation without feeling intimidated. And now that I've said all this, let me tell you how I plan to put my money where my mouth is. Like we touched on, I'm starting something called Hotline. It's a nonprofit. It's for female founders. I am not pitching. I just want to say that I really want to see this change. I want us to help each other, and this is my way that I'm going to be able to contribute and give back. That being said, regardless of how you identify, if you don't feel like you have someone to talk to, or if you ever have a question, I don't want you to have to look for any port in the storm. So reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm here for you, and I'm happy to chat with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Everybody up. Remember, we do those standing ovations. Big round of applause. Staying on stage for questions. Unreal. We'll do 2 questions. Hands up if you want to ask a question to Kat.
Hi, you in the third row. I don't know if there's anybody else, but
I'm just so curious. They said you started your first business at 9, and yet you started off mentoring post grad, I guess, business ventures. Just how did it all begin?
I forgot I mentioned that in the Google form they made me fill out, but yeah, I realized
It's my crack spies. Do lots of research.
that I also mentioned that I make jam and I have a dog. Those are my other things I'd probably mention. No, I think I was somewhere in Breather. I was like, I made sachets when I was 9 and went selling them door to door. I was like, that's not normal. I was like, then I was kind of like, that was probably secretly my first venture that I didn't realize at the time, and no one in my family realized what I was up to. But I was like, yeah, there was a little entrepreneur in the making. What's your question though? I'm sorry. Do you don't have your thing anymore? Here, yell it out. Oh, my mother gave me all the art supplies I could ever want, and encouraged me and told me I can be whatever I wanted to be. Just get a good job when you get out of school. That's what she told me. Italian immigrants.
One last question.
Hi there, Mariana. Thank you so much for sharing your experience. I'd like to point out what you brought to the stage was not to be afraid, or, it's okay to fail. I've been a professional. I've had a great career for over 20 years. And it took someone really close to me to say, hey, you know what? You need to take this chance and jump and be a founder and so on and so forth. So can you talk us through the steps that you had to take to acknowledge the fact that you might fail or you might not make it to the top, but then push your way through that? Because I think it's a really important message for a lot of us to understand as we make our way through this journey.
I can do better than that. I'll share with you guys, and I don't think I've ever shared this publicly before. I almost didn't even do Breather because I was so nervous I was going to fail. That was actually what was happening. I was having horrible anxiety at the beginning of the company because I was worried I wasn't going to do a good enough job, which is laughable. And now if I think about it, I go, imagine what my life would have been like had I decided to not take the chance because I was nervous. So yeah, failure was a big thing right from the beginning.
Thank you so much.